Welcome back, everyone, to the deep dive.
It's great to be back.
Today, we're going to be looking at personality.
Yeah.
But not just like surface level stuff.
Right.
We're going to be diving deep into the big 5 personality traits.
Absolutely.
Have you ever wondered why you click with some people instantly?
Yeah.
And then others, they just remain a mystery?
Yeah.
Well, understanding these traits, these big 5 personality traits, can unlock some serious aha moments, I think.
Absolutely.
About yourself and those around you.
Yeah.
And hey, before we get started,
Sure.
if you're finding this deep dive helpful, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel.
Yeah.
It really helps us out.
Definitely.
Let's unpack the big 5.
Yeah. Let's get into it.
These aren't just random labels you see on those clickbait quizzes.
Right.
These are
well established.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're backed by research.
They're fundamental dimensions of personality. Backed by decades of research in psychology, they shape how we think, feel, and act in almost every aspect of life. And what's fascinating is that these traits remain pretty stable throughout adulthood, influencing everything from our career choices to our relationships.
So it's not just about being a social butterfly or a lone wolf.
Right.
There's real science behind it.
Exactly. Yeah. It's not just like a fun, sort of label. It's really about how we're wired.
I'm already intrigued.
Yeah.
Can you break down what each trait actually means?
Absolutely.
How would these traits show up in someone's day-to-day life?
Yeah, for sure. So let's start with openness to experience.
Okay.
This is all about your willingness to embrace new things. Ideas, experiences, cultures, you name it. Someone high in openness might be the friend who's always dragging you to that new fusion restaurant.
Right.
Or suggesting a weekend trip to a completely off-the-grid location. They thrive on novelty and pushing their intellectual boundaries.
So that's our adventurous friend.
That's our adventurous friend, exactly.
What about someone who's more into routine and familiarity?
Yeah.
Where do they fall on this spectrum?
So that's where we see lower openness. These individuals find comfort in the familiar. They might prefer sticking to their tried-and-true restaurants, enjoying quiet evenings at home, or engaging in practical hands-on activities rather than, say, abstract concepts. It's not about being closed-minded, but rather a preference for what's known and comfortable.
That makes sense. It's different operating systems for how we approach the world.
Yeah.
Now, I've got to ask about conscientiousness.
Yes.
Because I know a few people who could use a boost in that department.
Right.
What does this trait tell us about someone?
Think of your friend who always remembers birthdays, color codes their calendar, and never misses a deadline. That's conscientiousness in action. They're organized, responsible, and driven by a strong sense of duty. They excel at setting goals and meticulously working towards them. On the flip side, someone lower in conscientiousness might be more spontaneous, flexible with plans, and maybe a little less concerned with order and deadlines.
So the go-with-the-flow type versus the meticulous planner.
Exactly, yeah.
Now let's talk about extroversion. I feel like everyone throws that word around.
Right.
But what's the scientific take on it?
Yeah.
Is it just about how outgoing someone is?
It's a bit more nuanced than that. While extroverts often enjoy being the life of the party, it really boils down to where they draw their energy from. Extroverts thrive in social settings. Interacting with others energizes them. They're often assertive, talkative, and enjoy the spotlight.
So after a big social gathering, they're ready for round 2?
Yeah.
While the introvert's heading home for some solo recharge time.
Exactly, yeah. Introverts, on the other hand, find their energy depleted by too much social interaction. They recharge by spending time alone, often preferring smaller groups or one-on-one conversations. They might appear quieter and more reserved. But that doesn't mean they're shy or unfriendly.
Right.
They simply find different things energizing.
I'm starting to see how these traits can really impact our social dynamics.
Yeah.
So how does agreeableness fit into the mix?
Yeah.
Does it measure how nice someone is?
It's more about your orientation toward others.
Okay.
Highly agreeable people are compassionate, cooperative, and trusting. They value harmony, avoid conflict, and genuinely want to get along with others. They're the friends who are always there to lend a helping hand and go the extra mile to make others feel comfortable.
So they're the peacemakers and the friends you can always count on. What about people who are lower in agreeableness? Are they just difficult?
Not necessarily. They might be more skeptical, assertive, and less concerned with pleasing others.
Okay.
This can manifest as being more independent willing to challenge the status quo, or even playing devil's advocate in a discussion. They prioritize honesty and direct communication, even if it means ruffling a few feathers.
Interesting. So it's about like different approaches to interacting with people. And finally, we have neuroticism.
Yeah.
Which honestly sounds a bit intimidating.
Right.
What does it actually mean in the context of personality?
Neuroticism is often misunderstood.
Oh.
It's not about being neurotic in the everyday sense.
Right.
Instead, it relates to how intensely and frequently you experience negative emotions like anxiety, worry, sadness, and self-doubt. It's about sensitivity and resilience to stress.
So someone high in neuroticism might be more prone to worrying or like getting stressed out.
Exactly.
While someone low in neuroticism might be more easygoing and take things in stride.
Exactly. It's important to remember that everyone experiences these negative emotions,
Right.
but people differ in their intensity and duration.
Okay.
High neuroticism isn't inherently bad. These individuals can be incredibly insightful, detail-oriented, and attuned to potential problems.
Okay, that makes sense. So it's all about understanding where we fall on these spectrums and how these tendencies color our experiences.
Yeah.
But how do we actually measure these traits?
Yeah.
It's not like we can just look at someone and say, yep, you're definitely high in conscientiousness.
You're right. There's no magic personality reading trick.
Right.
That's where personality questionnaires come in.
Okay.
Psychologists have developed various questionnaires to assess these traits. One of the most commonly used is the Big Five Inventory, which presents you with statements and you rate how much you agree or disagree with each one.
So, for example, if the statement is, I am always prepared,
Yeah.
someone who strongly agrees is likely high in conscientiousness.
Precisely. It's not about any single answer, but rather the overall picture that emerges from your responses to a range of statements.
Okay.
These questionnaires are designed to be statistically reliable and valid, meaning they've been rigorously tested to ensure they accurately measure what they claim to measure.
So it's about looking for patterns in those responses to, like, understand your personality profile.
Yeah.
Now I'm curious, why should we even care about these traits?
Right.
How does understanding the Big Five actually benefit us in our day-to-day lives?
That's a fantastic question, and one I'm eager to explore.
Okay.
Knowing your personality traits, your strengths and weaknesses, can be incredibly empowering. Imagine using that self-awareness to navigate relationships more skillfully.
Right.
Or even make better career choices.
Okay, I'm hooked. Let's dive deeper into why the Big Five matters.
Yeah.
And how this knowledge can actually be applied to, like, make our lives better.
Absolutely. Let's do it.
I'm excited for this.
Me too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fascinating how that self-awareness can really like unlock a deeper understanding of ourselves.
Yeah.
Take conscientiousness, for example.
Okay.
If you know that you're naturally organized and disciplined,
Mm.
you can leverage that strength in your work life by setting clear goals,
Right.
creating structured plans, and sticking to deadlines like a pro. It's about playing to your strengths.
That makes total sense.
Yeah.
But what about, like, the flip side?
Yeah.
How can understanding our weaknesses, like those not-so-glamorous traits,
Right.
actually help us?
It's not about dwelling on those weaknesses,
Right.
but rather being aware of our tendencies so we can develop strategies to like navigate them.
Okay.
So for instance, if you know you're prone to anxiety because you tend towards higher neuroticism, you can proactively manage stress by incorporating mindfulness techniques,
Yeah.
creating calming routines, or even seeking professional guidance when needed.
So it's about self-acceptance.
Exactly.
Knowing ourselves.
Yeah,
And then finding ways to work with what we've got.
for sure.
I like that.
Yeah.
You mentioned relationships earlier.
Yeah.
I can see how personality plays a role.
Mm-hmm.
But how can understanding the Big Five actually help us build stronger connections?
Yeah. So think about it this way.
Okay.
Imagine you're friends with someone who's super extroverted,
Right.
always the life of the party.
While you're more introverted,
Yeah.
happy with a quiet night in,
Okay.
without understanding those fundamental differences in how you each recharge,
Yeah.
you might end up feeling frustrated or misunderstood.
Right.
The extrovert might feel like you're holding them back,
Yeah.
and you might feel pressured to keep up with their social whirlwind.
Oh, I've totally been there.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's not about trying to change each other,
Right.
but rather understanding and respecting those core differences.
Exactly.
Right.
So by recognizing these differences,
Yeah.
you can find ways to compromise
Mm-hmm.
and create a dynamic that works for both of you.
Yeah.
Maybe you agree to join them for like a big social event once a month,
Right.
while they respect your need for some solo downtime in between.
Exactly.
It's about finding a balance that honors both personalities.
Absolutely.
That's such a practical example.
Yeah, I think so.
And this applies to, like, all kinds of relationships,
Yeah.
friends, family,
Mm-hmm.
even colleagues at work.
Yeah. If we understand each other's personality styles, we can communicate more effectively,
Yes.
manage conflicts better,
Absolutely.
and build more genuine connections.
For sure.
It's like having a secret decoder ring for human behavior.
Yeah, I love that analogy.
But you also mentioned career choices.
Yeah.
How can knowing our personality traits help us in that realm?
So research has actually shown that certain personality traits align with success in different professions.
Okay.
For example, someone high in extroversion might thrive in a fast-paced sales environment where they can use their natural charisma and energy to connect with people.
Makes sense. Put them in a room full of strangers and they'll come out with a dozen new friends and a signed contract.
Exactly.
But what about someone who's like more introverted?
Mm-hmm.
What kind of careers might suit their personality better?
So introverts often excel in fields that allow for more independent work,
Okay.
like writing, research, or even software development. They can focus deeply on their tasks, think critically, and come up with innovative solutions without the constant need for external stimulation.
So it's about finding a career path that complements your natural strengths and preferences.
Exactly.
I love that.
Yeah.
Now, I know there are tons of personality tests out there.
Right.
Myers-Briggs, Enneagram, and so many more.
Yes.
I'm curious, how does the Big Five compare to those?
Yeah.
Is it just another personality quiz, or is there something more to it?
Yeah. So while those other tests can be fun
Right.
and offer some insights, it's important to note that the Big Five model has a much stronger foundation in scientific research
Okay.
within the field of psychology.
Right.
It's been rigorously tested and validated across cultures and over time,
Yeah.
which makes it a more reliable tool for understanding personality.
So it's like the gold standard, so to speak.
You could say that, yeah.
But I imagine no model is perfect.
Right.
Are there any limitations to the Big Five?
You're right. No model can capture the complete complexity of human personality.
Right.
Some critics argue that 5 factors might not be enough,
Okay.
and there's ongoing debate about whether they fully encompass all the nuances. For example, some researchers propose models like the HXACO model, which includes an additional trait called honesty-humility.
Interesting.
It's an evolving field like any area of science,
Right.
constantly being refined and expanded.
Yeah. Okay, so it's an ongoing exploration.
It is.
I'm going to ask you a personal question.
Sure.
How have you found the Big Five useful in your own life?
Yeah.
Has understanding these traits made like a tangible difference for you?
Absolutely. I've always been interested in psychology, but it was diving deep into the Big Five that really brought it to life for me.
Okay.
One specific example comes to mind. I had a close friendship that was becoming increasingly difficult.
Oh.
We were constantly disagreeing and the tension was building.
Right.
I couldn't figure out why we were clashing so much.
I can relate to that feeling of bewilderment when a close relationship starts to feel strained.
Yeah.
What did you do?
I started thinking about our personalities through the lens of the Big Five.
Okay.
And it was like a light bulb moment.
Huh.
I realized that she was much higher in extroversion,
Okay.
craving constant social interaction,
Right.
while I'm more introverted, needing my solo time to recharge.
Uh-huh.
Our different needs for social engagement were creating friction without us even realizing it.
So how did understanding those differences help you, like, repair the friendship?
It allowed me to approach the situation with more empathy and understanding.
Okay.
Instead of getting frustrated by her constant need to be around people,
Right.
I started seeing it as part of her personality,
Yeah.
not a personal attack on my need for quiet time.
That's a powerful shift in perspective.
It really was.
Did she understand your need for solitude as well?
Yes. Once we talked openly about our different needs, she was incredibly understanding.
Okay.
We started making an effort to compromise.
I join her for social events sometimes, knowing it was important to her.
Yeah,
And she became more respectful of my need for downtime.
that's great.
Yeah.
So it wasn't about changing who you were,
Exactly.
but rather accepting those core differences and finding ways to navigate them together.
I think that's key in any relationship.
That's a great example of how understanding personality can lead to more fulfilling relationships. It's not about, like, putting people in boxes,
Right.
but rather using this knowledge to foster empathy, communication, and compromise.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree
I
more.
love that. Now, before we wrap up,
Yeah.
there was something in the article we read about the Big Five
Mm-hmm.
that really caught my eye.
Okay.
It mentioned that while personality traits tend to be fairly stable throughout adulthood,
Right.
they can actually change over time,
Yeah,
and that deliberate personality change is possible.
that's right.
I found that incredibly fascinating and hopeful.
What are your thoughts on that? The idea that we can intentionally shift certain aspects of our personality.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really empowering.
Yeah.
It means we're not just stuck with whatever traits we currently have.
Right.
Is there, like, scientific evidence to support this idea of personality change?
It's a relatively new area of research, but yeah, the evidence for personality plasticity is growing.
Okay.
While our core tendencies might stay relatively stable, studies show that life experiences, conscious choices, and even therapy can kind of nudge certain traits in a desired direction.
Wow.
It might not be a complete personality overhaul,
Yeah.
but subtle shifts can make a significant difference.
So if someone wants to become, like, more open to new experiences or less prone to anxiety, it's not an impossible feat.
Not at all. It requires effort and intention, just like developing any new skill. It might involve stepping outside your comfort zone, trying new activities, practicing mindfulness, or working with a therapist to develop coping mechanisms. The key is to approach it with a growth mindset, believing that change is possible.
This has been such an eye-opening conversation.
Yeah, it's been great.
I feel like I've gained a whole new understanding of myself and the people around me.
I'm glad to hear that.
Before we go, I want to encourage you to dive deeper into this topic on your own.
Yeah, definitely.
We've included a link to the full Psychology Today article in the description below.
It's a great article.
Yeah, it's packed with insights about the Big Five, and it even has some, like, fun quizzes to help you explore your own personality traits.
Yes, definitely check it out.
So take some time to check out that article, and as you do, we'd love for you to consider this. What aspect of your own personality are you most curious to explore further? Maybe it's a strength you want to leverage even more effectively, or a tendency you'd like to manage more skillfully. Whatever it is, embrace the journey of self-discovery and keep exploring the fascinating world of personality.
It's a journey worth taking.
Yeah.
Understanding yourself better can lead to richer relationships, greater career fulfillment, and a deeper sense of self-acceptance.
And on that note, we want to thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the MIG 5 personality traits. We hope you found it informative, insightful, and maybe even a little inspiring. Remember, the journey of self-discovery doesn't end here. Keep exploring, keep learning, and keep embracing the unique and wonderful complexities of human personality. Until next time, happy diving.